as for the very first time, Bangladesh is hosting an official Magna Carta event, and AIUB has the honor of being its host. We are deeply grateful for the presence of our international guests who have traveled from across Europe to join us here in Dhaka. Your participation makes this symposium truly global. And it reminds us of powerful role that universities play in connecting societies across borders. The symposium is further strengthened by the participation of distinguished leaders from Bangladesh's higher education landscape, including dignitaries from University Grants Commission, Bangladesh Accreditation Council, vice chancellors, pro-vice chancellors, directors of IQAC, and senior academics from universities across the country. Universities today are being asked, what are we good for? How do we serve society? The Magna Charta Observatory's Responsive and Responsible University initiative challenges us to go beyond academia and ensure that our teaching, research, and engagement create meaningful impact, guided by academic freedom, ethics, inclusion, sustainability, and responsibility to our communities. Over the next 2 days, we will hear powerful stories and case studies from Dublin's experience of advancing social responsibility through community-engaged research to Wrocław Medical University's response to the humanitarian crisis of migration, to Lithuania's support for war-affected people, and of course, AIUB's own journey of embedding social responsibility and sustainable development into our core mission. Each of these experiences reminds us that while our context may be different, the values we share as universities are universal. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially welcome us to this historic symposium, it is my great honor to invite a distinguished leader who has been guiding force for AIUB and a strong supporter of higher education excellence in Bangladesh. Please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Carmen Lamagna, member AIUB Board of Trustees and project lead for AIUB's Responsive and Responsible University project, for her welcome remarks.
Good morning, colleagues, friends. Assalamu alaikum. You know, it's very pathetic that when we call the program at 9:30, everybody comes. I don't know, probably 9:30 in the evening. But anyway, we cannot wait for them because this is a very important event. And I have been planning this with David from when, David? So it took me 4 years to bring MCO here. But during these 4 years, I and David have come with a very good, warm relationship, a friend, a colleague. We talk about so many things. And during this course of time, we also have developed a strong relationship with MCO. Even the jobs, the programs that we do here, the activities that we do here is aligned with the objective also of MCO. The Responsive and Responsible University Initiative was launched by Magna Charta Observatory in 2022. It is a very timely and impactful effort to explore how universities can better fulfill their roles in today's rapidly changing world. As part of this initiative, AIUB carried out research encompassing a range of endeavors such as fostering opportunities for young women, entrepreneurs, engaging in community service to raise awareness. Where is this area? Coral. So with the other 5 universities, AIUB was selected to have the project. It is not, there is a funding, but obviously the funding have to, what I want to say is, David, it's not enough. But anyway, we have finished the project, and the project has been presented to so many conferences, and they all were very appreciative of the 5 universities who has undergone the project. And David will be announcing something later on. I will expect that. It's a very good announcement for AIUB. Of course, the research, this conference, this symposium will be a dissemination of these 5 projects. Unfortunately, 2 universities will be joining us online, but nevertheless, the presentation will be very informative. The research that was the research from AIUB is headed by, of course, Madam Farhin. And I have also Resbin and Nazia and Carlene. Though my part is just reading and editing, but still I'm part of the research team. AIUB was established in 1994. I think we're older than MCO. Are we? 1994? It is we are widely recognized for our commitment to academic excellence, ethical governance, sustainability, and innovation. We provide high-quality multidisciplinary education that nurtures integrity, social responsibility, and environmental consciousness. The Magna Charta Observatory was founded in 1988 in Bologna, Italy. And I will not be discussing what MCO is, because I will have Dr. David after me to discuss and to give you more information about MCO. As a signatory of the Magna Charta Observatory, AIUB is honored to host this dissemination event in partnership with MCO. The symposium will showcase diverse and thought-provoking research projects conducted under the Responsive and Responsible University program. By bringing together, of course, the researchers, our colleagues from Bangladesh, from other private universities, BRAC, my friend, and IUB, and which university is here? We are expecting a few more private universities to join us later on. Of course, BAC is here, and UGC. Thank you for being with us today. We gratefully acknowledge the efforts of AIUB's IQAC, Farhin, Nazia, Shushmita, Imran, Saif, Pronoy. They have done a lot of good work for this conference. Thank you very much, IQAC. I always give them, this is what I want to do, you do it. And they delivered. Though they are only 5 in the department, their office is open from 9 o'clock. I was asking them what time you left last night. They left at 8 o'clock. And one was going, where's Saif? Saif left at 8 o'clock. He reached home at 11 o'clock. And I asked him, what time you came? 7 o'clock. I should have given you a bed in the office. I will do that, Saif, if you want to have a bed. I'll give you the THM. I'll give you the THM hotel, THM lab. Of course, David and Carla from MCO, whose contributions have made this initiative possible. With thanks also to the AIUB Board of Trustees for their generous support. We warmly welcome you to the International Symposium on Responsive and Responsible University. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam, for, as always, your inspiring and witty words. And thank you for officially welcoming us to this landmark symposium. Now, it is my privilege to invite our next speaker, a distinguished global leader in higher education and a guiding force behind the Magna Charta Observatory. He will share with us the background of the project and its vision for responsible and responsive universities worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Javid J. Locke, Secretary General of the Magna Charta Observatory.
That doesn't look like that. That's John Davis's one. That's the one.
I think this is the one.
That's the better. And does that do? Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much.
Here's the slide agenda.
Okay.
If you need.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is both a personal and a professional pleasure to be here this morning. And thank you, Madam former Vice Chancellor, Board Member, and Carmen, for this wonderful invitation and for the pleasure of working with you and your colleagues in putting this together. I say it is a personal pleasure. Back in 2009, I was invited by the British Council to come to Dhaka, and I visited the UGC. I visited 6 universities, some private, some public. And it was good to work with them on their mission to improve higher education for Bangladesh. It was back in 2001 that I first really got to know the American International University in Bangladesh. And I got to know them because we were in the business of revising the Magna Carta. We were hoping to have a large conference to celebrate the launch of this document, but COVID stopped us. And so we invited signatories to submit a 3-minute video about how they were putting the values of the Magna Charta Observatory into practice. We received a lot of videos. One which absolutely stood out was the video about this university made with the BBC as part of another project. But what came through that video for me was the reality of the Magna Carta values being put into practice for the benefit of the students and the benefit of society. And that was where our conversation started. Since then, this university has been successful in an international competition to host one of the 6 research projects, which I will tell you more about in a minute. And also and we're going to recognise this tomorrow, this is the university from all around the world whose students submitted the most essays for our recent student essay competition. And that shows to me, in many ways, just how this university is embracing the values of the Magna Carta and putting it into practice. But the benefit is not just for this country. Last December, Fahine and Agatha, who will speak later on, joined me in Japan for the International Conference of the IAU. The first day of that conference had been full of big, impossible, and depressing themes for universities. And when we went on the dinner, on the boat, there wasn't the usual sort of joyous air that there is about these occasions. First on stage, the following morning, were Fahine and Agatha. And they were talking about the projects that they were at that stage developing for and with Magna Carta. It is not an overstatement to say that those two presentations lifted that conference. And they lifted it in hope to show what universities actually could do. And so your university, very much on the map internationally, and we've done it again since in Georgia, and in November we will be showcasing other projects in London. And so that is why it's a particular pleasure for me to be standing in this university in Bangladesh. And before I start with what it says on the programme, may I just welcome the viewers who are joining us online. As Carmen said, this is a collaboration between Magna Carta and this university, and we are delighted to have you with us. Now, in my session this morning, what I will be doing is saying just a little bit about the original Magna Carta, talking a little bit about how the pressures in society and all sorts of forces are increasing those pressures on universities, the new Magna Carta, and then I will come to the research project, and I will end with an invitation. The Magna Carta, 1988. The situation was that governments, particularly in Europe, were seeking to interfere with or restrict the academic freedom and autonomy of universities. And resistance to this was rising. And the University of Bologna that year was going to celebrate the 900th anniversary of its founding. It is the longest continuous operating universities in the world. And so a group of 7 male professors got together, and they asked themselves the question, what's to be done about this? What can universities do to protect themselves, to advance themselves, and so on? And they came up with a very short document called the Magna Charta Universitatum. 2 pages, the Great Charter for Universities. And it set out a number of fundamental principles. And I have hit them in yellow on this slide here. The university is an autonomous, institution. Right? It's intellectually independent of all political authority and economic power. In other words, it's able to seek and to tell the truth. Teaching and research must be inseparable. In other words, the education which we provide must be up to date at the boundary of science. Freedom in research and training is the fundamental principle of university of life. Why should universities hire the best brains to take knowledge forward, to take society forward, if they are then not allowed to use those brains to determine how it should be taken forward? And then the last point up there, the university should attain universal knowledge. Now, there's an awful lot in those two phrases, all right? Universal knowledge around the world. It should be global. It should collaborate, and so on. So although it was back in 1988, it was before the fall of the Berlin Wall, it was a far-sighted document. And that is all based on the fundamental belief that that is how universities can best serve societies. That was 37 years ago. Since then, the context which we recognize as universities is that change is taking place more quickly. It's taking place less predictably. It is much, much more difficult to manage universities now, as you who are vice-chancellors and rectors will know. Previously, your main focus was on your country. Now, your focus has to be international as well. And in that international context, there are a number of particular imperatives. The climate emergency is one which Bangladesh knows extremely well, with the eroding coastline, the pressure on its land, and so on. And when I came in 2009, it was a great pleasure to see some of the research that was going on in universities to address that issue. United Nations has since then responded by establishing the Sustainable Development Goals, and we'll be talking more about those in this conference. But we also have to take account of what is known as the Fourth Industrial Revolution, itself a product of this increasing change and pace of change, the combination of different disciplines to address the problems that we face. And the effect of this is that universities are now much more important for society than ever they were. And if we want evidence of their success, let us look no further than COVID-19. The way universities in different countries collaborated to both contain, to research, and eventually to develop a vaccine for COVID-19 was just the most impressive global expression of the value of universities. There is today greater public interest in universities, but there is also greater regulation and interference from the state and state authorities. And that is an issue which we have to deal with. We also experience political mistrust. And just as in 1988, we see politicians in many countries seeking to interfere with universities. As universities, we are experiencing a more diverse range of expectations from even more stakeholders, and this is partly the product as well. But at the same time, there's an erosion of trust in science and in experts. Fake news, for instance, and many things like that which we are used to. But thanks to COVID, in part, we can now teach in different ways. We can do more online, and we can engage with social media to do that. But we also face more competition, because organizations which are not universities have decided that they can do some of this as well, and they can make money from it. But they cannot do it in the same wholesome way that universities can do it. So, the world had changed. The Berlin Wall had fallen. We were experiencing much more internationalization. And the original Magna Carta had referred to the coming millennium. So in 2017, Magna Charta Observatory decided that it was time to review the Magna Carta and, if necessary, to revise it. Now, one of the big changes was, whereas 7 wise old male professors had prepared the 1988 document, this time we wanted a more diverse group of people. So we had 4 men and 4 women. We had a student. We had some rectors. We had some secretary generals. We had a truly global spread of people. We consulted very, very widely and quite extensively. And we traveled, we had meetings like this where we discussed it with people in different countries. And the outcome is an equally short document, just over 2 pages. It's officially published with the 6 UN languages, but there are other translations which can be found on our website. Now, that document takes nothing from the original 1988 document. The principles which I shared with you a few moments ago, they are still as valid today as they were then. But what it has added is a powerful statement that universities should engage and respond to global challenges. And to fill their potential, universities require a reliable social contract with civil society. The new Magna Carta is expressed in terms of principles, values, and responsibilities. And I have put just a sentence from the new Magna Carta up there. Universities are non-discriminatory spaces of tolerance and respect, where diversity of perspectives flourish and where inclusivity, anchored in the principles of equity and fairness, prevails. They therefore commit themselves to advance equity and fairness in all aspects of academic life, including admissions, hiring, and promotion practices. So we are reaching out to all society for them to be included in universities. Now, in the year 2000, the original Magna Carta had been around for 12 years, and probably the same 7 professors scratched their heads and said, well, what are we doing about this? The document existed, but there was no way to put the document into practice other than the voluntary effort of universities. So, an observatory was formed by the University of Bologna and the forerunner of the European University Association. It's a non-profit making body. It's a very small body. You are looking at half of its staff, and I am half-time. Its purpose is to safeguard the values and fundamental rights set out in the Magna Charta and guarantee the respect, protection, and promotion of those values. We are asked to assist universities and higher education systems to operate in accordance with the values. And the way we work, and I'll share something of our strategy in a minute, the way we work is that we invite universities to come and sign up to those principles. It's a lovely ceremony. And in 1988, 388 rectors from around the world turned up in a square in Bologna when that university had what I call a party with a purpose to celebrate its 900 years, to affirm their commitment to those principles. I bring you the happy news that following a meeting last week, there are now over 1,000 universities from 94 different countries that will be signatories of the Magna Charta, and many of the extra ones will come to London on the 13th of November for a ceremony in King's College to sign. So, let me share with you briefly what we are doing. Our strategy is a very simple one. We disseminate the values set out in the Magna Charta, and we work with universities to build capacity for them to do that. And we work with both signatory universities and those which are not signatories. We obviously want to increase the number of signatories. So when I'm speaking in bodies like the UN or European bodies, I'm speaking with a slightly louder voice than if we were just small. I want to strengthen the network because just as Carmen, through this university, has given so much to other universities through her own example and the example of this university, so other signatories can do so. And one of the great joys of working with this research project is the way in which the universities have helped each other and shared with each other, and so on. And all of that is aimed towards the values having greater impact in your university and your university having greater impact in the world. And just to break it down a little bit for those of you who prefer pictures, we developed something called the Living Values Project. This is a very simple project, and in fact the Daffodil University in Bangladesh is one of the participants in this project. And it very simply helps universities to put into practice the values which they have signed up to. It is now used all around the world, and it is used by universities that are not signatories as well as those who are. And in our strategy for the next 5 years, we are going to continue to invest in that. We are going to establish 2 particular work streams looking in greater depth at academic freedom and autonomy. And we are going to develop what I am calling our next generation strand. The bit of that which this university knows about is the essay competition. 7 of its students entered the competition. Some wonderful essays, and we're going to mark that tomorrow. But I was spending time week before last with the Global Student Forum. We were developing leadership materials for students who are going to be student leaders in different countries around the world. And those materials will have valued inputs to them, so that as they are students, as they are leading students, and as they go on, some of them, to become academics and vice-chancellors, they will be aware of the values from a very early stage. And then finally, but by no means least, our research and repository strand of work. And that is why we are here today. We introduced the new Magna Carta. And from talking to universities, we knew that there were challenges in putting into practice most effectively the engagement with civil society. And hence, and I have to say thanks to COVID, because we rely on donations from universities to operate. And during COVID, we were not allowed to travel anywhere, we didn't need to stay anywhere. So we saved that money, and we have invested that money in this project. And I quite agree with Carmen, we need more money for this. And I'm hoping that we will receive more money when people appreciate the value of it and donate more. But the theme of our research is responsive and responsible universities. And the motivation of it is to engage with signatories, to learn and to assist with the implementation of the Magna Carta strategy and engaging with society. We wanted the universities that took part to be capable of looking at themselves, to understand what works, what doesn't work, and why it doesn't work. We know that all universities will cheerfully promote the great things that they are doing, and so they should. But for this particular piece of research, we required a much more reflexive approach. So, we wanted to know how universities were going about putting this into practice. We wanted to know the difficulties that they were facing. We wanted to know how they were overcoming those difficulties. We wanted to know what was successful and why it was successful. And hence, we had a competition. And we wrote to all signatories and said, we're doing this. We have a little money. And it's very much a partnership model. But if you are engaging with society, if you are prepared to look critically at that, and if you're doing something which you think the rest of the world might be interested in, then we would like to hear from you. And it was a criteria-based selection process. 20 universities wrote in to say they would like to be a part of it. The research committee of Magna Carta was the senior body making the decisions. And they are a very hard group of people, and rightly so, because most of the applications that were accepted were sent back. And they were sent back to say, we like this, but. And revised applications came back and 6 were accepted. All right. What we then did was we identified 4 people. They've been rectors, vice-chancellors, or thereabouts. They're good researchers, and they have demonstrated through their careers that they put values to the fore. And we appointed these people to be ambassadors who would work with the research sites. Not tell them what to do, but work with them. Be critical friends. And one of them, John Davis, is going to be appearing on the screen this afternoon with a cross-cutting theme which will extract from several of the projects what we have learnt from them. How the ambassador and the project related was up to them. We met together 3 times. We met together first in Poland at Łódź when we were forming the projects. And the aim of all of these sessions was that the participants would learn from each other. We don't know what the answers are. And the answers are different in different countries. All right? But by talking, by sharing together, we thought we would strengthen the project. Our next meeting was in Lithuania, and most recently in January this year, those who were able to travel came to Georgia to meet, and others who weren't able to travel joined us online. The projects are largely finished, all right? And the phase which we now move to, but which we've kind of started already, is the dissemination phase. And as I said, Agatha and Fahin came with me to Japan. Agatha and Nomada came to Georgia. 4 of the projects will be here, and 2 of the projects will be presenting in London. But that is only a part of it. There will be a book, a proper academic book. And I can tell you the good news that we have received some of the referees' reports, and we are now in commercial discussions with a publisher for the book. And it will be published sometime in 2026. There will also be, it will be open source as well, it will be on our website, and I want that bit of the website to be really interactive, because I'm sure that there will be universities that will see what Dublin has done and thought, that's great, and we also did this, or we did that slightly differently. And so I'm hoping that that website will be a resource to carry things forward. We will be organising conferences around the themes that have come from the research, and we'll be doing webinars as well. And so our relatively small amount of money, added to by the universities who have participated, will go on to have quite a large exposure and hopefully impact. Now, which universities were successful and why? It was all criteria based, and the committee was rigorous. And 3 of those universities came from conflict situations. Vasily Stus Donetsk National University in Ukraine is doing a project which is based on how staff respond in a conflict situation. It's a very powerful chapter because that university was moved from Donetsk to Vinnytsia. Staff left their homes and families to move with it. And the commitment to what they do is just phenomenal. Second one is from Poland, Agata. Lots of people from Ukraine went across the border to Poland for safety. And it was Wrocław Medical University that provided so much for them to enable them to live meaningful lives whilst in exile. I won't take any of the thunder from the presenters, they will share that. From Lithuania, there was similar support. Of the other 3 projects, the project from this university was right across the university, and it showed how this university engaged with a slum area in Dakar to improve the quality of lives of those people, improve the economic situation and so on. And it's, again, a really impressive story that lifted that world event in Japan. Dublin is looking at engagement with the community around the research agenda. And again, I won't steal any of the thunder, except to say that it's important, and I hope that that one will grow. And lastly, the University of Tetova, North Macedonia, was looking at how bullying might be managed. The book, just a few points. We want to tell the world what we've found. We want to enable the world to use it to develop their approaches to engaging with community, and give practical insights which will address the research problem that we first saw. It's for policymakers at different levels. It's for university leaders. It will be a work for scholars and for civil society. The contents, I don't think I need to go into. And hence, I would like to conclude, and I would like to conclude with some thanks, and I would like to conclude by expressing a hope. All right? I've put on the slide people I would like to thank, but I would like to pick from those the owner, former Vice-Chancellor, the splendid team that have put this event together from this university. Thank you. I would like to thank Bangladesh for what it has shown.